Proinsias MacAirt was an Irish Republican activist and long-serving member of the Irish Republican Army. Early years. A native of Belfast, MacAirt first became involved in Irish republicanism as a boy when he joined the Fianna Éireann. His first imprisonment was in 1942 when the youthful MacAirt was sent to jail for illegal drilling. MacAirt was later interned during the Irish Republican Army's border campaign of 1956 to 1962. Founding the PRA. Having retired at some earlier point, MacAirt returned to the Republican movement in 1969, throwing his lot in with the newly established Provisional Irish Republican Army and the political arm Provisional Sinn Féin. Indeed, in early 1970 his Padraig Pearse Cumin, which he set up in the Clonard area of the Falls Road, was the first branch of Provisional Sinn Féin established in Belfast and proved central to the growth of the dissident party in the city. In August 1970 MacAirt was appointed editor of the Belfast-based Republican News, succeeding Jimmy Steele, who had died soon after being appointed editor. Despite his advancing age, MacAirt also became involved in the gun battles that raged between the Republicans from Falls and Loyalists from the neighbouring Shankill Road. As a consequence, MacAirt became one of the leaders of the nascent PRA in Belfast. MacAirt was publicly named as a leading Republican by General Anthony Farrar Hockley, who had commanded the British Army present during the clashes, and with whom MacAirt had held failed negotiations at the scene of conflict. He served as adjutant to Billy Mookey, who was first commander of the Provisional Ira Belfast Brigade. According to Brendan Hughes, MacAirt's Skane Street home doubled as Belfast Brigade headquarters at this early stage in the movement's history. On the 15th of April 1971, MacAirt, along with Billy Mookey, was arrested by the British Army when found in possession of a handgun. Both men were sentenced under the Explosive Substances Act 1883 and sent to Crumlin Road Jail. In the prison, the two men were recognized as the leaders of the Republican prisoners, a role held by Gusty Spence on the Loyalist side. MacAirt and Mookey cooperated informally with Spence to maintain order until they agreed to establish an official camp council. The makeup of this group saw MacAirt and Mookey representing the PRA, Spence and an associate identified only as Robert representing the Ulster Volunteer Force, and Ned McCreary and James Craig as Ulster Defence Association delegates, with members of the official IRA and Irish National Liberation Army eventually added. Later activity. MacAirt was involved in the talks held between Republicans and clergymen from various Protestant churches held at Feakle on 12 December 1974. Whilst the talks produced little, MacAirt was one of those who maintained contact with the clergymen. Indeed, on 19 January 1975, one of the ministers, Rev. William Arlo of the Irish Council of Churches, even introduced MacAirt and his ally Jimmy Drum to British government officials Michael Oatley and James Allen in an attempt to have the Republican grievances heard. Although a new generation of leaders emerged in the PRA and Sinn Féin, MacAirt remained an influential veteran. He was close to Danny Morrison and Tom Hartley and helped to ensure the removal of Sean Corey from the editorship of Republican News in 1975 and his replacement by Morrison. MacAirt died in 1992 at the age of 70. Sinn Féin President Gerry Adams delivered the graveside oration at his funeral, describing him as a radical in the Connolly tradition.